Welcome to another episode on the Fact Hunter channel. Thank you for watching our videos. If you would like to learn more about a topic that interests you, a topic that the Fact Hunter can investigate, feel free to write about it in the comments. And now we would like to invite you to the video titled, Super Spy at Pearl Harbor. Rain was falling on the island of Oahu, where 3/4 of Hawaii's population lived. High above Pearl Harbor, the main harbor of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, a Piper Cub plane was slowly circling. Its passenger was 29-year-old Tadashi Morimura, a junior diplomat at the Japanese consulate in Honolulu, who was on a tourist flight. It was the afternoon of December 5, 1941. In reality, Tadashi Morimura's name was false. His real name was Takeo Yoshikawa, a slim, handsome man, looking young for his years. Although he seemingly held a lowly position at the consulate, Yoshikawa was the ace of Japanese intelligence in Hawaii. Since he arrived on Oahu in March of that year, he had provided Tokyo with an incredible amount of information of the highest importance, although even casual carelessness could have led to his unmasking. With the rank of ensign in the Naval Intelligence Reserve, Yoshikawa graduated from the Etajima Naval Academy. He later served as a cipher officer on an aircraft carrier. In the spring of 1940, he was asked if he would become a secret agent in Hawaii. He accepted the offer enthusiastically, even though it meant turning civilian, assuming a false name and an apparent assignment to the consulate in Hawaii. In preparation for his spy mission, Yoshikawa spent a year studying international law and English at university. He also conducted serious research on American politics, economics and ships, aircraft and naval equipment. In the spring of 1941, Admiral Isokuro Yamamoto, commander of Japan's combined fleet, was polishing up a plan for Operation Z, as the massive attack on Pearl Harbor was called, combined with the encirclement of American military airfields. Although there was already a small group of Japanese spies on Oahu, the admiral wanted a naval intelligence expert there to send detailed and truthful information. Ensign Yoshikawa was chosen for this important task. Despite having good naval training, savvy and energy, Yoshikawa had no spy experience. Undaunted, he began improvising his own techniques for extracting information from the enemy soon after arriving in Honolulu, unaware that he would become one of the most effective spies in history. Yoshikawa instinctively grasped that if he tried to enter American facilities, he would be stopped by guards. So during a long tour of Hawaii's main islands, and then on 2 car trips around Oahu, he wore flamboyantly colored shirts like a carefree tourist, and was accompanied by attractive young women from the consulate or geisha. When the guards saw a tourist with a woman, they allowed the pair to pass. Twice a week, Yoshikawa slowly made his way around the island for 6 hours and looked at the Pearl Harbor area from the hilltop almost every day. However, he wanted to get behind the fence, closer to where the American warships were docked. Equipped with a sandwich box and dressed in work overalls, he mingled with a group of workers going to work and spent the day strolling inside the fence without arousing any suspicion. On another occasion, he coerced a hostess from a private club for U.S. Navy and Army officers to hire him as a waiter for a large party. Carrying a tray of drinks, he circulated among the guests, eavesdropping on as much as he could of their conversations. 2 or 3 times a week the courteous Yoshikawa, often with a geisha under his arm, visited the buffet and soda stall run by an elderly Japanese man at the pier at the end of the Pearl City Peninsula. American sailors would gather here, and from them the spy would learn many things, such as, is the fleet sailing soon? Is it receiving new supplies? The spy spent many nights in Honolulu bars, enjoying the American service. He and his female companions, feigning cordiality, would put down numerous rounds of drinks for the young Americans, usually without money. Being careful not to pose direct questions or draw attention to himself, Yoshikawa listened diligently and collected gossip from the staff, most of which could be valuable for intelligence. One of Yoshikawa's favorite establishments was Shuncho Ro, Spring Restaurant, a Japanese-style tea house in the Alewa Hills, which had an excellent view of Pearl Harbor and the nearby U.S. bomber base, Hickam Field. Once, when he pretended to be too drunk to go, the kindly manager put him to bed in a room with a direct view of the harbor. At dawn, Yoshikawa was horrified to see the view from this vantage point. Most of the American fleet was sailing out of the harbor. With no fear of being spotted or detected, he took copious notes on the duration of the Armada's departure from Pearl Harbor. the strategy used in the position of each ship in formation. Naval intelligence in Tokyo was particularly pleased with this feat. If the U.S. fleet attempted a similar operation during the upcoming attack, the Japanese admiral could adjust his plan accordingly. In early August, at a time of rising tensions between Tokyo and Washington, nothing changed in normal activities on Oahu. When the U.S. military announced that an open day would be held at Wheeler Field, a fighter base in the middle of the island, for an invited audience, Yoshikawa and his geisha showed up. Although photography was forbidden, the Japanese agent with a photographic memory recorded his observations in detail shortly after returning to the consulate in Honolulu. A week later, Yoshikawa and his companion took a cab to Hickam Field. He told the board guard at the gate that he had an appointment with a friend at the officers' club. With a wave of his hand, the guard allowed him to enter. For nearly 2 hours the cab circulated around the base unstopped. Yoshikawa's photographic memory recorded countless details. The length of the 2 runways, the number and type of aircraft, where they were parked and the location of the pilot's quarters. One day in early September, Yoshikawa received an urgent question from Tokyo. Is there an anti-submarine net at the entrance to Pearl Harbor? The agent did not know the answer. So he put on his collared shirt and, carrying a bamboo fishing rod, strolled carelessly along the road and then among the trees growing close to the harbor entrance. He hid in the bushes until sunset. After darkness fell, he began to crawl. Suddenly, he almost collided with 2 American soldiers who, for reasons only known to themselves, were standing in a dark grove talking. Yoshikawa froze in stillness until the voices fell silent, and then entered the waters of Pearl Harbor without making a sound. Swimming as quietly as possible, he reached the entrance of the channel and then dived in, trying to find the net, if there was one. He took 5 breaths and went underwater, searching in the dark with his arms and legs. Nothing. Close to exhaustion, he swam to shore. The net was indeed there, but he could not find it. Almost every night, Yoshikawa and his superior, Consul General Nagao Kita, met in a small room in the consulate as the staff went to bed. They were both concerned that the FBI had set up a wiretap at the consulate, so there was no discussion of espionage matters. Instead, sitting across from each other, they wrote messages, questions and answers on cards. In the morning, Kita would send a trusted courier in a chauffeur-driven limousine to one of the commercial telegraph offices, from where Yoshikawa's coded messages were sent to Tokyo. On December 5, a few hundred kilometers north of Pearl Harbor, the Japanese invasion fleet, which had set sail 8 days earlier, safely crossed the dangerous waters near Midway, where the U.S. Air Force had several reconnaissance planes. Before turning south for the final leg of the expedition, every ship in the fleet was refueled to capacity. Shortly after 12 noon, all crew members were summoned aboard. Emperor Hirohito's war proclamation was read, preceded by Admiral Yamamoto's speech. The fate of the Japanese Empire depends on this battle. Let everyone give their best. As thousands of Japanese sailors and airmen greedily absorbed Yamamoto's words, super spy Takeo Yoshikawa completed his tourist Piper Cub flight over Pearl Harbor. He then rushed to the consulate to send an urgent message to Tokyo. On the morning of December 5, the following ships were in port: 8 warships, 3 light cruisers, 16 destroyers, no aircraft carriers. Japanese commanders in Tokyo were unaware that U.S. cryptologists had cracked the J-19 code, used by Consul General Nagao Kita and Foreign Minister Shigenori Togo to pass messages to each other. Yoshikawa's harrowing report was intercepted and could have alerted American forces in the Pacific that a Japanese attack was coming. However, a huge number of dispatches were waiting to be deciphered by American intelligence, creating a logjam caused by a shortage of cryptologists, sluggishness and interoffice rivalry. Thus, Yoshikawa's deposition was put in the "for later" compartment. Just after dawn on Sunday, December 7, the bright sun, rising majestically over Mount Tantalus, was beginning to flood Pearl Harbor with its warm rays. It was an unusually beautiful and peaceful morning. Except for a few aircraft carriers, the U.S. Pacific Fleet was swaying sleepily. In Honolulu, secret agent Takeo Yoshikawa was eating breakfast at the consulate when he heard a thunderous noise that gradually increased. The window panes began to shake, and several paintings fell to the floor. Running out into the courtyard, the agent squinted and looked at the bright sky. He spotted 3 airplanes. A wave of pride flooded him. The wings bore Japanese markings. They had arrived. They've arrived. Yoshikawa said to himself. Until that moment, he didn't know the timing of the attack, and he didn't even know if it would happen at all. The spy clapped his hands, jumped up and ran to the building to notify the consul. Mr. Kita. They have arrived. They have arrived. They are here. Kita, almost breathless, fell out into the courtyard. For long minutes the two men stood in silence, with their arms folded, and stared at the sky, which was now covered with Japanese planes. Tears streamed from their eyes. Finally, Kita said simply, "Good job, Morimura." Yoshikawa had to remind him that his name really wasn't Morimura.